You know, we've all heard the saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, folks, we want you to step right into it with us on a working ranch. See the cowboys that are actually working here. See the fires it lit in the morning, the conditions in which we're working in. If you love cowboy and ranching traditions, stick with us because you're going to love this video. Hey, thank y'all for stopping by, and we're doing something a little different this week. We are, and we hope it meets y'all's approval. We are going to talk about what's behind the picture, or what made that picture, really. You know, Shannon's a great photographer as well as a great writer and a producer, but in all our cookbooks, she has took all the photograph pictures, all the ranch pictures, and there's so many of them pictures that have a story that goes with them, and we'd like to give y'all a little behind the scenes. I'm going to need you to give you a big old thumbs up, if you like this kind of video, and comment down there below if you'd like to see more of them. I'm going to go ahead and just pour y'all a cup of coffee, okay? Because ain't nothing better than a cup of cowboy coffee. I'll wait for you just to sit down, because this first picture, and a lot of y'all may recognize this picture if you've seen our first cookbook, A Taste of Cowboy. It's the first picture you see. It's on the Bell Ranch, about 2013, 300,000 acres. The first camp we was at, and it was a sandy dirt storm motor scooter the first morning cooking breakfast. There's no more way for Mother Nature to welcome you into her world than giving you a little force and a little grit. That picture is of me trying to cook bread that Shannon has made. This is like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I mean, it was pitch black. The moon was not even there. You couldn't see no more than 10 foot in front of you unless you had a light. It was dark. The wind was probably blowing 45, 50 miles an hour that morning. And just because them conditions are like they are, doesn't mean that cowboys don't want to eat. Coals on top, and you can bake just like in any conventional oven. Well, as I got that first scoopful of them coals and I brought over there, and I got to seeing them embers just blowing away in the dark black sky. I mean, it was like fireworks on the 4th of July. And the only thing I could think of right there in that moment was, God, don't let me start no fire out here. It was a very dry year, it was. Now, look there about my boots, and I want you to come up. See all that dirt that's just embedded on them clothes right there? Folks, we've been fighting that dirt ever since we got up that morning. I want people to realize, folks, we're not cooking in a controlled environment. We're not in a set to where it's a stand and stir kitchen. This is out there in some of the greatest country that God created, and Mother Nature wants to test you as them sparks are beginning to fly off. And I was so impressed that Shan captured that moment.
First of all, you had mentioned, the camp we were in, and this was the first camp that we'd come in, and actually this was the first ranch that I had cooked for any significant length of time. But when we got there and set up in that first camp, it was the most desolate thing I had ever seen, and I thought, there is no way I'm gonna make it for 5.5 weeks. Luckily though, we moved camp every about 3 days, and so this ranch was so massive that we finally, after I think the 3rd camp, it finally got some vegetation. So in terms of the picture itself, I am by no means a professional photographer. This has a lot to do with this shutter speed. You get the motion of the embers, so there was just enough time there for that shutter to capture the movement, yet Kent still staying still. Usually I take multiple pictures in a certain scene. This one, I think this was the only one I took at that time. This morning was going so fast, I just kind of snapped it and didn't know what I had until later.
So folks, really the thing that really got me when Shan got home and she put this on the computer and she said, I think you're going to want to see this. I thought back to what they told me when they hired me on this ranch. They wanted to get back to tradition. And they hadn't had a cook with a wagon pulled by a team of horses or mules since 1957. I was so thankful that God put us in this position that Shan could capture that picture at that time. While we're speaking of morning rituals, and I think this next picture to me is It is one of my favorites. It is because there's a great person in the picture. I want you to gaze at that picture and look at that lantern. Folks, that's the only light in 50 miles. And when you can get out in country that's that dark, and when you wake up in the morning and you walk out of that teepee and you look up, them stars look like they're 10 times bigger than what you normally get to see. This man that's standing beside me at this fire, Gary Green, but this man has got one of them just gentle gaits as he walks up to you, and you can see in his eyes that he's got a bigger heart as that country we was in. He was the first man, the first day and every day thereafter, to come up there and join me for a cup of coffee. And he becomes a dear friend. I can remember that morning as I offered Gary a cup of coffee, and he went and got him a coffee cup. We just carry a big old tub there that's got coffee cups in it. And I want to tell you right now, when he grabbed that coffee cup, which was white, had a green stripe on the handle, he grabbed that coffee cup every morning thereafter. Cowboys are going to pick something that they like, whether it be a horse, a coffee cup, or a fork, and they're going to stick with it. And I remember propping one leg up on that old stove there just a little, and Gary said, how long you been cooking? I said, oh, maybe 20 years, Gary. He said, you cook for many ranches? And I said, yeah, quite a few. He said, well, it's been forever since we've had a cook in camp that they brought the wagon with a team. He said, I think it'll be a good time. Now, we did talk about the weather. That's always conversation at the wagon. And Gary told me, he said, well, I can guarantee you while we're here for 6 weeks, you won't get to see some of it all. He said, but one thing you probably won't see much of is rain. So when I'm having coffee ready at 4 o'clock, fire's the first thing that goes on. And then it's coffee, because it is the life's blood of cowboys to sort of get that motor started. You got to pull that rope pretty hard sometimes. When I start that fire at 2:30 and Shan's over at that chuck box, that wagon, making bread so it'll rise, and when you first see Gary pull in, it would probably be pretty close, I'd say, till 5 till 4 to 5 after 4. He running that time range every day. He's done one out there, caught a horse, saddled him up, put him in a trailer. And let me tell you folks, when it got light and he unloaded that horse where I could see it out of that trailer, that is probably the biggest black horse I ever seen in my life. But that horse had the same demeanor as Gary did. He was so calm, he was so gentle. And Gary said to me, he's bulletproof. That means that you can count on him in any situation in the world to get the job done. Now, when we're over there at that old stove, and it ain't old Bertha, it's that old stove that's sort of portable, got 4 sides that you pin together and a grate goes over the top of it. It's got a long arm sticking up there, sort of like a shepherd's hook. That's where that lantern hangs. Gary knew that I was gonna have that coffee on about 4. He knew it was gonna be ready when he got there. And the time he got there, and me and Gary, as I was cooking bread, would have time to visit maybe 20 to 25 minutes before I actually really had to start cooking bacon, making gravy, and while Shan was doing the rest of it, other cowboys go to showing up anywhere from, depending on breakfast time, from 4:30 to 5 o'clock. But it was always good to have somebody there to greet you of a morning after you got up.
I really enjoyed having Gary in camp, and I love taking pictures of Gary because to me he has such a classic cowboy look. And anytime he was in camp, he just had a really calm, gentle spirit about him. For this picture, like I've said, I'm not a professional photographer, and so evening and morning shots, anytime when there's dark, it's really intimidating. I didn't know settings, I didn't understand how it worked, so it was really just trial and error. For this shot, I took a ton of pictures, and I'll, cycle through some of them because it was such a great picture that I wanted to get it right and just captured that lantern. That was the thing that I just really loved. We had the fire light and then we had that lantern light. When there was nobody else in camp, it was just the two of them, and just kind of looking on that, it was a really cool moment that I wanted to capture well. And Gary was really, really patient and good about it. He just, acted like I wasn't there, which is exactly what any photographer wants to do.
Well, tell you what, it's about time for Kent to check them biscuits, and the coffee pot is running a little low. Let me top that off for you. We hope that y'all liked this part of it because it's something new we wanted to try. Be sure and give us a thumbs up so we'll know you like it. but also leave us a comment down there below what you think about it. We need y'all's help as our family to help us come up with a title that will fit this on a series. We just appreciate it so much that you take time out of your day and let us in your living room, your truck, your cell phone, whatever you might be on, but we appreciate it. But it is with pride, honor, and great privilege that I tip my hat to all the veterans, servicemen and women who have kept that old flag flying, but also to all them old cooks that went down the trail, all the cowboys that saddled up before us, and all those who are still doing it to keep the West alive. God bless you, each and every one, and we'll see you down the trail.